Okay. Well, thank you all for coming, and sorry for the little delay, but that's what happened when you're sitting here and someone in Copenhagen and you have all the IT to work. My name is Bettina Dahl Søndergaard, and I am one of the people in the PBL Academy. Jakob Davidsen, who's sitting there, is the other one. There are two other people who couldn't be here, and then we have Jane Bak Andersen, who is our secretary. And this is one of the seminars we have been holding this spring about different things relating to PBL and the teaching at Aalborg University. And this seminar is, as you may have read here, it's about how can we modernize our PBL teaching? How can we continue to have this great model, and how can we improve it? And so this seminar and material that will be available afterwards will give you hopefully a lot of good ideas. And we have 5 presenters, and there's a group sitting in Copenhagen, and one person will be presenting from Copenhagen. And so we'll do that. And then we'll have a coffee break at 2 o'clock. But you feel free to get some coffee already because we don't want to wait. So, but otherwise, I'll be leading in the beginning, and then Jakob will take over later. And so we'll just... we have 25 minutes per person, and that will be a mix between presentation and discussion, and that will be very much led by the person who's actually doing the presentation. So, well, let's just start, and we have Nikolaj Steinø from Department of Architecture, Design and Media Technology, so please.
Well, thank you very much.
You're going to have this.
I should. Okay, so let's try. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Nikolaj Steinø. I'm trained as an architect. I have a PhD in urban design and a graduate diploma in business administration, and I'm an associate professor in urban design. Can you see me? And I could move further away, yes. Anyway, I see one person in Copenhagen, is that correct?
Yes, they are.
Okay, hello. I'll try to look into the camera every once and again. I'm not here to give a presentation, as you may have realized, as the whole point of what I'm going to tell is to not give any live presentations. Therefore, the idea of the next some 20 minutes, I guess, is to activate you. But before we start, I would like to ask you, those of you who did not watch the video which was linked to you yesterday, to please raise your hand. So a couple of guys did not watch the video. So you will have difficulty actually engaging with the other participants. But as I prepared for this, you may take out your smartphones and scan this QR code, and then you can watch the video while the rest of us will have a small seminar. And if you don't have earplugs or something, you may consider going out into the aisle so that the noise from your devices will not disturb the rest. I'm sorry, this is always the case, but I mean, with such a short notice, of course, we cannot expect everyone to do.
Is it not better that they take part in the seminar and they tell briefly?
I don't know. I mean, that's the seminar is based on preparing, and most of you did, and I don't want to let you down who did. So I would ask the rest of you to please talk with your next neighbors in pairs of 2 or 3 people for the next, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes, and reflect upon the 3 questions that were asked in the email which was sent out yesterday. And the things I want you to discuss and reflect upon is, firstly, how could you imagine a blended learning format applied in your particular field of teaching? Obviously, teaching is very much dependent on the nature of the field and the content and the subject matter. So there may be different ways which are better to convey a given subject than others. So that's what I want you to discuss. I would also be happy if you would try to consider the pros and cons which you could imagine from in terms of the quality of learning, of engaging in a blended learning format. And finally, of course, because that's what concerns all of us in here, to consider the pros and cons which you can imagine in terms of the preparation and teaching load on behalf of the instructors. Because this may be more labor intensive or it may be less labor intensive, depending on the nature of the setup, and also obviously depending on how much you would typically change any given course from one year to the next. So now it's 1:10. So like 1:20, I will just clap my hands and ask you to share some of your considerations and discussions that you had with your next neighbors. Is that clear? I'm sorry, Copenhagen, you will have to entertain yourself somehow, but we'll be happy, of course, if you would contribute to the discussion afterwards. So, and in the meantime, I will have a coffee. Den står der. So, time is up. The point of the next 6 to 8 minutes or so is for you to share your views on these 3 questions from the conversations you had with your neighbors. I guess we may just plunge into all 3 questions in one pool and see where it takes us. Anyone wants to go first? Maybe on the issue of the first question concerning your own field?
We have several questions. So one of them is this course a new course, or have you been running this course previously and done it in a more traditional learning style? And what is the difference in the learning style that you have experienced changing to this one?
That is a very relevant question. In fact, this was the first time I was running this particular course. In fact, it was the first time I was teaching coding, as it is, computer programming, to my architecture and design students. And that's why I gave it considerable consideration how to do that, because it's quite alien to them, given the way they traditionally work. So no, this was the first time. So I have no basis for comparison.
So another question could be this sharing of code that you encourage the students to do. That could be a cons, as you suggest, namely that lazy students or whatever students could be copying code without really getting into understanding what does this code do for you. And they can just take some code from another student and then tweak some parameters and get the results of their own. So they actually get a result, but they don't really get to know how would you do this from scratch or to do it yourself. Is that a risk?
Of course, that's always a risk, you may say, but the thing is that this is not a computer programming course. This is a course on parametric design. So the learning goals of the course is more about understanding the logic and the thinking of working in this particular way when doing design. Designing the rules that generate the design rather than designing the actual objects. So you may say learning the software and the coding, which is particular for this particular software. Other softwares that also are parametric will work in different ways with different coding languages or even without text coding, but with little plugs that you graphically combine. So that was not a learning goal per se, but of course it's like a vehicle for understanding, and therefore it's very difficult to separate. But I think as the students were asked to do new things progressively during these 5 chapters or sections of the course, they would still have to come up with something where they may use snippets of code from other people, but they would have to transform it into something more sophisticated. And whether they do this by chit-chatting with their next neighbor student or from grabbing code, I don't think that's a serious issue, actually. Yeah. Any other views, perspectives, comments, reflections? Sure. Sorry.
I think in connection to project work that it's quite interesting, or it could be quite interesting with this kind of blended learning, because we have this, we would like it to be stronger, for example, some of the PBL stuff and some of the methodological elements, and the projects are very student driven, so it would be really interesting to use this kind of platform to actually motivate this kind of reflections about methodology and so on in the projects. I think that could be quite interesting. I could imagine doing something like that with some of our projects.
Well, I definitely think that the particular qualities of the chosen platform, this social media platform, Google+, I mean, there's a host of softwares out there that do more or less the same thing. So I basically chose it because it's free, because it's very easy to set up. I mean, I didn't have extra time to prepare my course in this particular blended learning format. And it's very easy for the students to learn how to navigate, which is also a serious issue. And I'm sorry to say, I don't think very much of Moodle in its Aalborg University implementation. It's not very well done. And people find it very difficult to navigate, very difficult to engage with, and also it's based on a understanding of learning which is like the instructor gives assignments and students hand in their work. So it's like purely a student instructor relationship. So the student-to-student relationship is not really very well supported in the Moodle. And that's what I think is really one of the advantages of this social media stream, like in Facebook, that everyone can see whatever anybody is sharing, and they can comment, they can ask, and they can even have discussions, student to student. And I think that's a really great benefit from this particular format. So, yeah.
Just a quick comment to your comments at the end, disregarding my personal opinion about Moodle, but there is an option that can be used, which is create discussion forums, which some of the colleagues do, ahead of exams, for example, where then the students come up with questions and you enable them to actually answer and reply. Everybody can see this. So, yeah, it might not be as transparent and interactive as Google Plus or whatever it's called, but there are options as well that are utilized.
Sure, I agree. I mean, and that's why I said in the Aalborg University implementation, because Moodle is a toolbox, and you can tailor it to any number of different needs. But I think the way it has been tailored in our university is maybe not so skillful. So, and also I would have to engage with someone with permissions and technological insight to actually set it up for me in Moodle. And even that would take any number of days or even weeks to do. And I didn't have the time for that. And so that was, I mean, I know Google is a nasty beast and they earn money from knowing everything about us and all the rest, but it just appeared to be very easy to implement in my case. I would love an Aalborg University system that could do the same, and I would pick it any day. But as it is, I don't think I have it.
Yeah. For my course, I could see the part of assignments being changed with what you have been doing, and I think it gives students flexibility to do the work when it fits them instead of after the lectures, how it is now. I just have doubts about the video lectures that you were giving, because in my case, we have a lot of interactions. I'm asking questions, I can see they don't understand some topic, and then I can explain that. Where does this come in your system?
Well, actually, I like the lecture format for my personal vanity, because I'm actually often told that I'm quite good at giving lectures. When I presented this previously last fall in a conference in Barcelona, I was actually presenting it in the format of a lecture, not a video like today. And people were saying, like, it's so sad you don't want to give lectures because you're quite good at it. But I don't think that's the point. The point is, whatever you can convey in the format of a lecture, you may as well convey online. And I agree, of course, you need time physically present with the students to clarify things. But this course did not have less face-to-face encounters with the students. In fact, it had more, because I could just basically walk in, hands in my pocket, and meet the students for the seminars, because they would then be doing the work. And I think that's very important for the learning. They do the work. I'm not the one sitting at home sweating the night before to finish off my slides and giving them the next day, and then just being totally wasted. I'm actually just walking in, hands in my pocket, and they have been doing the work, because they need to do the reflections, and they need to share in the format of a seminar like we do now. And then, of course, there's always also time for all those clarification points, etc. And also, the same goes with the workshops. They need to try to solve their stuff. I need to finish off.
So, when I ask questions, I don't wait to see them making mistake. I practically ask them. Sometimes if you leave them to do the things, they are not aware where the challenges could be. So how...
Well, I'm not saying that it's a perfect substitute for everything we used to do. But I think it's a perfect substitute for a great many things. And we would probably have to come up with new ways of taking care of the stuff, or the different aspects that get lost in this format. So, but it's important for me to say that this does not have the aim of having less face-to-face contact with the students. On the contrary, you can have more, because once the videos are made, yes, there's an initial workload to actually prepare all the material, which is going to be more. But not a lot more, because you would prepare the slides anyway. But you need to do the video. But it's very low key. It's just in front of my laptop using that tiny little camera. So it's not very sophisticated. It's not like Mr. over there and his high-tech stuff. And so, of course, the quality, and I'm not a film director or anything, but it's okay. And it's just like straight out of the pocket. Sorry, last question.
Last one. I'm thinking about the time management in terms of there are blocks you set aside for blocks of time that you set aside for that, or how do you manage the time? I could see that you posted the video and so on, and the students were interacting and so on. So is it throughout, or is it within a certain block? And just think about how do we manage the times.
Well, as in the video, there was this multicolored matrix with yellow, green, and red. So basically, all of the boxes in this matrix was a face encounter event. Only the first one, the red one, was a live lecture in the traditional format. The rest would typically be seminars with the students contributing their thoughts or their results or work in progress. And the yellow ones would be one-on-one supervision. They would sit in front of their computers trying to get things right. And whenever they got stuck, they could just ask the instructor, and we would come over and try to solve whatever problems there were. Some of these sessions were just adjacent to each other. They could be 2 sessions in one morning, like 1 hour seminar, 2 hours workshop, something like that. And then the next morning would be a presentation seminar or something like that. But it's very important, I think, to always have time between sessions where students can work and reflect for themselves. I also do the physical foam workshops that was shown in the video, and I'm always very careful in trying to in alteration with the students, do small assignments and then join up again. Of course, I was fortunate that this was just a 4-week compacted course. They had no other duties during this 4 weeks, so they could concentrate fully on this. I think probably the time is up. Is there a final comment in Copenhagen? No, okay, good. So thank you very much for your cooperation. It's very brave of you to engage in this new teaching format on such a short notice, and I'm happy you actually that we managed to get something out of it. Thank you.